And here we go. Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCC chamber pressure looks good.
Payload down phenomenal.
It's orange!
Welcome in, everyone, to more live launch coverage from NSF. On your screen, obviously, is a Falcon 9 rocket, and it is so good to be back with everybody. I'm Gene Riley for NSF, your host today for Starlink 1020. Joining me today is the one and only Alex. Alex, how are you?
Well, it's a weird and perform a third burn to the orbit sort of south of Australia. There we can see that entry area for that second stage, those hazard zones for people out there. You don't want people to fly or be on boats out there when that's happening, right? Or at least if they are out there, they're aware that there may be some rocket parts raining on them. But yeah, that's sort of the profile for today. What they're carrying as usual, 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites. It's been sort of the norm with these Group 10 missions. It's par for the course, essentially.
And the booster's going to come back, and it's going to be landing at landing zone 2 because they retired landing zone 1, right?
No, it's going to come back to just read the instructions. A drone ship out there.
Sorry. It's not an RTLS mission. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. It's a drone ship landing out there in the Atlantic Ocean, roughly 600 kilometers downrange. It's actually going to be closer to the coast of the Carolinas, as I was saying, because it sort of goes northeast, right? So you can imagine more or less the trajectory. It's gonna come very close to the folks out there in the eastern seaboard. I don't know about visibility because it's daylight, right? And daylight launches just gonna look like this tiny orange blob amongst a really bright sky, right? Because the sun is out. When it's nighttime, though, it's just this big big orange blob, glowing orange blob in the sky as it travels across the sky, and it's a dark sky. So people on downrange and everything, they should be able to see that during the night. But today is a daylight launch, so yeah.
I want to bring Dee in and talk about something you said. You said a big glowing orange thing in the sky. We always talk about jellyfish, Dee, and that's usually in the afternoon or evening. Can the same thing happen early in the morning with the sun rising? I don't know.
Yeah, so it's best off when I honestly think the morning jellyfish are better than the sunset jellyfish, at least on the East Coast. But we're well outside that window now with the sun well and truly above the horizon. But for those who don't know, the jellyfish is sort of a fun name given to the effect when the sun is below the horizon, so it either hasn't risen yet or it has just set. And then once the rocket gets high enough into the atmosphere, while the sunlight isn't reaching the ground, the sunlight is illuminating the exhaust from the Falcon 9, and it creates this really impressive glowing effect that can be maybe up to an hour, a bit more than that, before sunrise that you'll get that effect. And in the evening, once it has set, then you might have 45 minutes, maybe an hour is pushing it because of the rotation of the Earth. I don't know. You don't know for sure. There have been plenty of times where in the field we've been like, no, we're probably outside the window for a jellyfish, where then we end up getting a great jellyfish. But it is a spectacular sight, but not for today, because of course the sun has risen.
Gene Tolkien while muted.
I am not talking while muted. I was just clearing my throat. No, I was. Dee mentioned the rotation of the Earth. Dee mentioned the rotation of the Earth. And 98 Central sent in a question. And by the way, chat, we need more questions at NASA Space Flight. Send us all your questions. Alex will talk for the next 4 hours if you send in all the right questions. But 98 Central wants to know, does the tilt of the Earth's axis determine the launch times for Starlink launches? They're trying to build out these shelves, and we've seen a lot of them at, like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Does Earth's axial tilt have anything to do with when they schedule these? Talk for the next 4 hours.
At face
You send in
value,
all the right
it
questions.
shouldn't,
But
because you just mentioned, the shells and things like that. Like if you're deploying a lot of these satellites, you want to cover the Earth, right? And you want to have an evenly distribution and everything. So the way that they do it is they have these different planes and different inclinations
trying
and
to build
everything,
out these
different
shelves,
altitudes as well.
and we've seen
like one could be like 500
lot of
kilometers or
them at,
550
like
for
1
the
a.m.,
other
2 a.m.,
shell,
3 a.m.
etc., right?
Does
But
Earth's
there's also
axial
the fact
tilt have
that
anything
these
to do with
satellites
when
are
they
not
schedule these? Talk for the
deployed
next 4
directly
hours.
to
At
those.
face
So whenever
value,
I
it
explain
shouldn't.
because you think, excuse me, we always get this question of like, why do they schedule this at X time or whatever? And I always explain that it's part of their way of deploying these satellites so that they have an even distribution, what I just explained, right? Of the shells and whatnot. But there's also the
98 Central wants to know, does the
fact
tilt of
that these satellites are not deployed directly into those orbits. And as they are going up into those orbits, as they are increasing their altitudes, or they are checked out at different altitudes, like maybe they go up to 350 kilometers, and then they spend there like a month or 2 months doing checkouts. Like that can happen very easily with Starlink satellites. They usually take a while because they are checked out and whatnot. While they are in those lower orbits, because of the Earth's tilt, but also because of the Earth's shape, gravity does weird things, and there's this whole thing with orbital mechanics that essentially shifts your orbit. So if you're in a lower altitude, it can change your orbit in such a way that you may not be able to essentially deploy all of these satellites in an even distribution, to put it in a more or less techie way, to sort of get it more simple to explain. The whole deal is that there, again, at face value, the tilt of the Earth shouldn't matter. But because of this, and also the shape of the Earth, it's both. It's not just the tilt, but also the shape of the Earth. Because of that, then there's this whole thing. It's called orbital precession, for those that may want to look it up. And so the orbit sort of shifts around as time goes by, because you're in a different orbital altitude than the rest of the satellites are in their operational orbit. And so sometimes it goes in your favor if you want to move to a different location in the constellation and things like that, in a different plane, different orbit and things like that. Sometimes it can play against you. Whole point of this long answer is that maybe sometimes it does matter that that the Earth's axis is inclined 23.5 degrees or so, right? But I wouldn't be able to tell 100% with certainty, because there are other things as well. They seem to be trying always to schedule these, especially in the summer, around the morning, early morning, or at least late night, to avoid the afternoon showers, the thunderstorms and everything, right? So at least it seems like there's other things that go into play with all of this as well.
Switch back over to D for a question about camera lenses. Gort from Ort wants to know, how do you combat condensation on the camera lenses in the sticky Florida air? D, I'm going to take a stab at this one. A towel.
Well, that's definitely one of the options that we do use quite often. We also have like camera bags and the like, but one of the really helpful things is, because you're not just worried about like condensation on the outside, it's actually, you'll have condensation that forms on the inside of your lenses or even on your sensor. So one thing that's really helpful, especially on the remote cameras, is using hand warmers. They also make specialty like lens wraps or telescope wraps that heat up the lens to get the temperature above the dew point, so that you don't get any moisture forming. Because, of course, moisture can, while sometimes it might make for an artsy shot, it's not usually the shot you're going for.
And don't you have to like equalize the temperatures? Like if you have your AC running inside your house and then you go outside, everything goes crazy. Do you equalize it, like leaving it in the car or something like that? I don't know.
Absolutely. So you want to have your equipment set out well in advance, otherwise you'll have condensation forming even to a greater degree than it normally would. It's like the sunset time or like the morning dew time. That's when it'll be the worst if the lens and camera are just sort of at the same temperature as the air as the temperature changes. But if you have a lens in a car with the AC running or in a building with the AC running, you want to leave it like in its case perhaps to slowly equalize the temperature while preventing any of that moisture from forming. And you want to let that temperature equalize before you're putting it to use. Of course, there's also microfibers and the like. If you have to get the shot on a short term, yeah, you can wipe off the lens and that should help so long as there's nothing internally. But the best thing you can do is give it time and prepare.
Yeah, and you know, we're sitting here talking about the cameras that we use. I can imagine the technology that SpaceX is using. They've got cryogenics running through pipes and all kinds of. It's the technology, the engineering is probably insane for that rocket you're seeing there on the launch pad. Margaret, thanks for becoming a Red Team member today. We appreciate you joining us here at NSF. I was just in Oklahoma at a book signing, and an NSF fan walked by and said, "Hey, you look familiar." So we had a good talk, and I'll just say, Tammy, if you're out there listening, it was nice to meet you. We love meeting you guys, and we love it when you guys become Red Team members and support what we do here at NSF. So thank you very much for that. Let's get some more questions at NASA Spaceflight. Alex, why doesn't SpaceX, this is from nothing, why doesn't SpaceX show the payload deployment? Have we just gotten to the point where it's usual now?
Well, a long time ago they stopped showing those because it takes about an hour, and for them it's not like they just, it's better for them and for their planning and for their whole thing of like streaming things and whatnot. They just don't keep it around for that long because it will be like 40 minutes of music and coast phase and no views of the second stage, and then they deploy the satellites, right? And it's like I can see why they decided to do that, but sometimes that we can see, sometimes they do publish those videos of deployment on X, and this was from this morning's launch, well, I guess yesterday night if you were a local, from Vandenberg, of the Starlink mission that happened from there with 24 Starlink V2 mini satellites. They showed that deployment from the second stage, but that was not live. That was after the fact, after it had already happened. Yeah, I mean, there's no secret. I mean, sometimes there is a secret or two going on, but we can recognize when those happen. Other than that, it's just that it's too long of a stream. I have heard from certain people that may or may not have worked on their streams that they now are automated, so that also saves them people and things like that. So, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
And resources and all that. Yeah.
And as you can see, we are 38 minutes, 39 minutes. What's going on right now, Alex, with the rocket on the launch pad? Take us through that timeline.
Yeah, so hopefully, if everything goes well, we should be going into propellant load in about 3 minutes from now, at T-minus 35 minutes. Operators should have had already their go, no-go pull sequence. It's this sort of, electronic pull thing, right? And then they will have already been given the go and all that to start the auto sequence. There's this call out that is like launch auto sequence has started, and that should be at T-minus 35 minutes. It's an automated countdown sequence. It starts all of the procedures for the propellant load, and we'll see there on that timeline that we're gonna have first RP1 load on both stages and also liquid oxygen load on the first stage. We'll go down to different steps in the timeline. One of the other things we'll see will be the T-minus 20-minute event that locks chill down for the second stage, in preparation for the second stage liquid oxygen load. Around the same time, they also wrap up the RP1 load on the second stage, so that will be already 1 tank out of the 4 that will be loaded as well. And then we'll go down the timeline as we get closer to all of those other events. Will probably be too long to explain now, so we'll get there when we get there.
Get there when we get there. 36 minutes for the proposed liftoff, and this has already slipped, what, about halfway through the window? Because there's a 4-hour window, and they pushed this one back a little bit. I don't know whether, whatever reason, but they have pushed this one back a little bit, right, Alex?
Yeah, the window was it opens at 6:47 a.m. Eastern time, and it closes at 10:47 a.m. Eastern. This launch is targeting 8:29 and 30 seconds a.m. Eastern. That will be roughly halfway into the window. So 2 hours into the window will have been 8:47. So a little bit before that is 8:29:30 a.m., which is the current T0 for this launch.
And we talked earlier about cryogenics, and we talked about cameras actually and condensation. But Josh sent in a question. The Falcon 9 uses cryogenics during fueling process. Alex, are there any rockets that heat up their fuel during the fueling process?
During their fueling process, I'm not aware. I do know that certain hypergolics don't like the cold. And there are certain places in the world where it's cold enough that sometimes those hypergolics might not like the cold too much. I believe certain like I think even like maybe Proton at some point use like warmed up hydrazine and like their propellants like were warm up before being loaded and things like that, so that they would not get cold in the really cold temperatures of Baikonur or Plesetsk and things like that, right? I think they launched them from Plesetsk, but yeah, I do not recall anything else. There's hydrogen peroxide, which in theory you have to pull through a catalyst to warm it up, and there's like this whole exothermic reaction, that happens. I don't know if that technically counts as you need to warm it up, because it's actually when you use it rather than when you load it into the rocket. So I cannot recall of anything else other than, there are certain fuels and propellants that don't like the cold, and so you need to keep them at a certain temperature before loading into the rocket. But yeah.
It's interesting how the different companies, the different launch providers do things differently, but they're all kind of narrowing down to just, a couple ways to get their payloads into orbit. And that's what we're here for, to see in 34 minutes Starlink mission 10-20 lift off the launch pad. Chazbomb1 sent in, this mission is important to me because this booster was the first booster for my first rocket launch. That's kind of cool. I like that. That's, when you get to see a booster, like back in the day, they'd launch one space shuttle. I said space shuttle, yes. And then it would come back to land, and then that was it. Now you can see boosters launching 10, 15, 20 times. So are we into fueling at this point, Alex? At 33 minutes, and you went to the timeline?
We should. Right now, we have no indication that the count has stopped or anything. They have now this thing on their website where they have a countdown clock running, and they said that it is actually hooked up to the real one. So if that one stops at any point, then that means the actual countdown clock is also stopped and things like that. So I'm gonna say, if it's still counting down, then we're probably already well into propellant load. The way to not have to rely on that clock, though, is to just trust our eyes. Now today might be a little bit hard because, as you can see, there's a lot of bright light on the other side, because it's right after sunrise, and so the sun is sort of on the other side of the rocket. But yeah, we should see some frost if they are indeed into propellant load in just a few seconds from now. Roughly T-minus 32 minutes is when we see that frost appearing. But again, the conditions today, those light conditions, might not be the best.
There's a conversation going on in chat from Luke, who's talking about UK spaceports. So it's interesting. I'm being distracted by turning football stadiums into spaceports. It's actually a fun conversation going on there. But Michael's Jason in a question about ULA, and we just saw that one. Always talks about accuracy. What are they talking about accuracy? Do we know how it actually compares to other companies? I'm not sure exactly what they're talking about accuracy. Are they talking about satellite placement? Because they're certainly not talking about booster landings. Is that what they're talking about, Alex, when they talk about accuracy and how these companies compare with each other? Or is it launches versus RUDs or something? I don't know.
No, yeah, they're talking about orbital accuracy, like where you drop off the satellite. Like if your customer asked you to drop the satellite into X by Y orbit, for example, and C inclination or something like that, like the customer gave you these parameters of where the satellite needs to go. If you deviate too much from that, you're not a very good launch company, right? And so they sort of have this thing going on where they have these bullseye charts and things like that as well of how precise their launches are. I'm gonna be honest, I've looked at the data, at the publicly available data for other launch companies. Ariane, for example, launched the James Webb Space Telescope very, very precise. So precise that they were able to extend the usefulness of James Webb. They expected like 10 years of usefulness, but they found out that they have enough fuel for like another 10 more years, so like 20 years of operations. Like, and for example, SpaceX also has launched interplanetary missions where they have also been able to use less fuel, right? And so they can extend those. Like, there's this, like one of the very early payloads for Falcon 9, which was Discover, this sort of Earth observation satellite, like 1,000,000 miles away from Earth and things like that. Like, there are a lot of other companies out there that also do very precise injections and very precise deliveries. But, today is a Starlink launch. Starlinks probably don't care too much about that stuff. Either way, they do seem to be hitting their sort of pre-launch targets, because they sort of put out these things, this is where we want to launch the Starlink satellites, so that other operators know where the satellites are going to be, so that they don't hit each other and things like that. And so when they launch these satellites after the fact, we see the data from the Space Force tracking these satellites, and then they end up being in the same orbits that they said they were going to be launched into. So they're really also very precise. But anyways, we saw that frost already appearing on the booster, so propellant load is already underway.
See it there on your screen, just above the foliage. I've always wanted to say the word foliage on a stream. 29 minutes and 10 seconds to the time planned liftoff of this booster, and you can see it there as they zoom in. Great camera shots, and again, it's a little hard to see. The sun's behind it, but that's okay. We can see it there. Let's see. KSP Kid 1, thank you for that support. We appreciate that. And let's see. D, this is a question for you from KSP Kid 1. It says recommended camera settings. Today's second launch ever. I don't know if we want to go into the exact camera settings, but point camera at rocket focus. That's what Gene does. Then you can get a little more technical.
Yeah, it'll really depend on exactly what sort of shot you're going for, what lens you have, what distance you are, what focal length. It'll depend a lot. You're probably fine shooting at or near your base ISO, and then with rockets, of course, your shutter speed will be perhaps a bit faster than you would think. If you have more details or you want to reach out on social media, for sure. I'm active on social media. The whole crew here is active on social media, and we love chatting about cameras and stuff. So feel free to reach out on the socials.
Only rocket nerds, but camera nerds. And other nerds, robotics and all kinds of stuff. The crew at NSF, software development, radio broadcasting, maybe, if anybody has nobody has a question for that. Let's see. Supersonic retro propulsion. Alex, we'll come back to you for this one. Do recovery weather constraints change depending on the age of the booster? This is an interesting question. Maybe older boosters let them attempt riskier recoveries. Now, we have seen them used aged boosters in other testing before, but does the age of the booster allow them to push the envelope a little bit? I'll add to supersonic retro propulsion's question.
It depends. It might actually be the other way around, where some of the older boosters. I don't know if you remember, Gene. There was a B1058 which got lost out there at sea because it didn't have self-leveling landing legs, which was a recent change that they had to some of the boosters. Recent, I say. It was probably like 2 years ago. Which, in Falcon terms, that's like maybe 200 launches ago. But it was a rather a rather weird sort of event where they had landed. One of the landing legs hit a little bit hard, and so the booster was too low on the deck. They tried to use the octagraver and things like that, but only two arms could reach. It was a really weird thing. But there's the fact that it didn't have those that newer hardware. Maybe there are still some boosters out there that are the same, like B1063, B1067. I have no idea if they have been retrofitted or not. But you can think that if you don't have that sort of newer, flashy and very techy piece of hardware, right? You probably don't want to risk the booster to land in worse weather and things like that. Like maybe you want to have a better weather out there. Like it may be the other way around. What happens here, and so yeah. Right now, today, though, we do have the weather in general. Like today, we can see there the forecast for today is 90% favorable weather, only 10% of probability of violating weather constraints, with the primary concern being cumulus cloud rule. And you can see there, so that doesn't include the recovery weather that is factored in separately. And so that's where you see to the right additional risk criteria. And so they list there the upper level wind shear, the different layers of winds at different altitudes and the directions that they go through and everything. That's the shear and everything, right? And then you have the booster recovery weather, which has a low risk. Interestingly, the solar activity is low to moderate, which we've seen in the past that for Starlink missions that is very important. But yeah, that's one of the things that I will say, that it probably happens the other way around, that the newer boosters, because they have all of these newer stuff and they know, like they have a lot of the lessons learned, if you will, from previous boosters. Maybe they can land different, maybe a little bit more extreme weather. I wouldn't say fully extreme, but like a bit more risky weather. Yeah.
I would not have thought it to be the newer boosters to take the riskier missions, but I mean the boosters that have flown multiple times have kind of paid for themselves, and I don't know, that just feels counterintuitive. That's a great question and a great answer. Thank you, Alex. Deborah Jean wants to know, is this the first booster to fly 10 times in a year? Is that accurate? Like, we're only 8 months into the year. Has this booster flown all of its missions in 2025?
No, but I think Deborah means that this booster, it started its life on August 20th of last year, and it's August 14th. Yeah, so like in a year span since it debuted, so essentially 10 flights in a year. I'm gonna say I have no idea for the simple reason that I don't keep track of that. It might be the very first that did this. I will have to check though. I will have to go through. I know that sometimes we've seen like in a single, even calendar year, not even year in general. Like I've seen some boosters doing 8 flights and things like that, right? So it might be. I just don't keep track of this specific thing, right? So yeah, I'm sorry, Deborah, for not being of any more help with that. But it might be.
The one guy I thought would be able to answer that question. I'm kidding, Alex. Deborah, I thought you meant calendar year. I was like, wait. I've been away driving around the country. I didn't miss that much. But yeah, August to August, that makes sense.
I'm being informed that apparently next space flight does say that it is set to become the first booster to complete 10 missions. Yeah, so a lot of people think that I write these things. By the way, I was not aware this was on the website. There's other folks that help with all of this, and shout out to the team. I'm sure this was a random name. I'm not making up anything here by saying random name. That's his username on our website, and he's part of our manager team, the folks that put out all the information and everything. And I'm really sure he was the one putting that there because he likes to do that sort of thing. But thank Deborah. Like you probably saw that on. Yeah, I see now the comment from Deborah say read the info next space flight. Okay. Well, good job. I should have done that too.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because I was just about to talk about the Next Space Flight app powered by Flight Club Data. It's an amazing resource. You get 3D animations and all kinds of fun stuff. And Deborah was one step ahead of us, Alex. She got out there one step ahead of us to talk about it.
Yep.
And all the great information that's out there. If you're a rocket nerd, that's a great resource. You should go and check that out. Let's see. We're talking about the fuel earlier, and you can see at the bottom of the rocket there, you can see a lot of the good condensation as they fuel the rocket. Sideshow Bob sent in a question: with the supercooling, are they not concerned about RP1 turning slushy, Alex?
Yeah, they do. They try to have their own sort of insulators between the liquid oxygen and the RP1 tanks and things like that. They don't want to keep the like they cool down the kerosene, but if you cool it down too much, it becomes too slushy, as they say, right? And the pumps on the engines don't like that. But speaking of pumping and cryogenics and supercooling, there we can see the T-minus 20-minute vent underway on the Stromback, indicating we are on track for a launch in just 20 minutes from now.
Right, and it is Starlink mission 10-20. This is booster 1085, and there's the timeline that's popping up. So, Alex, talk us through this timeline real quick, and then we'll review the mission.
Yeah, so because they are going to be loading roughly 3.5 minutes from now, liquid oxygen on the second stage, they need to chill down that line, that umbilical line to the second stage, getting it ready for when they start flowing liquid oxygen into the second stage. Now, the reason why I sort of tied that in with that question that we got from Sideshow Bob is that, supercooling also needs a lot of the chill down and everything. So at Starbase, for example, they also use chill down propellants on Starship. And so at Starbase, we always talk about that, before they chill down the lines on the launch mount or the launch tower, they also do the chill down of the tank farm. That also happens here with Falcon 9 for the liquid oxygen side of things, because that one is cryogenic, so you need to also chill down all of that on the ground systems. And so this vent that we see there is just the sort of like the final step, if you will, before that liquid oxygen load begins on the second stage. It's like the last step of a very lengthy process of first chilling down the tank farm, then starting up the tank farm, doing all of the chill down of the liquid oxygen, going into the chill down of the lines that go to the Stromback, then the lines on the Stromback itself. Like, it's this whole process, right? Just so that the liquid oxygen can have a nice way into the rocket and it doesn't, turn into gas really quickly and destroys your launch complex. You don't want that kind of stuff. That's a very nasty stuff. Talking while muted.
I was saying you're right. It's not in the checklist. Don't destroy launch complex. Check. Moving on. This is booster 1085 on its 10th launch. It had a 43-day turnaround, and this thing is packed to 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites, and it is going to the northeast. The booster is going to be landing out there on just read the instructions, and the fairings are going to be picked up by Bob. But we mentioned earlier we don't really know, because weren't the fairings swapped out, Alex?
Yeah, so well, there you can see some of the stats for this booster. It flew already 9 missions, 6 customer missions, 3 Starlink missions, and the booster recovery as well, and the fairing recovery. But yeah, they originally rolled out a pair of fairing halves, serial number 200 and serial number 203, out there to the launch site. We in fact saw. We have a flyover video, by the way, a KSC flyover video coming up later today. It's not mentioned in there, but we spotted it on our pictures and things like that, so I can mention it here. Which was this flyover happened on Monday. The original fairings with the original stack of Starlinks and everything was rolled out. I think it was on Sunday. So by Monday, when our team flew over the Space Coast, they snapped pictures of the Space Coast and whatever, and so you can see on one of those, there's like at the that's the first rollout. Thank you, Jay. Okay, so that was on Friday. Yeah, wow. I thought Sunday. Then there was an empty fairing transporter on Monday, and then on Tuesday, the same fairings came back. So something happened, and the whole deal with that empty fairing transporter when our team flew is that it indicated that the fairings had even already gone into the hangar. They probably were already even integrated with the rocket and all that. And then a new set of fairings rolled out, and these are the ones that are there on Falcon 9. And reminder that every time they roll these out, there's a stack of Starlink satellites inside. So they already had another stack of satellites ready to go that they just rolled out and changed out from the other one that they had rolled out initially. So the good old switcheroo, I guess. But yeah, it's weird. So now we don't know, because it was in the middle of the night. Nobody was awake, and also because it's the middle of the night, they have these numbers now, the serial numbers on the fairings, but it's complicated because it's nighttime and all that. You need a bit of sunlight to be able to see them. So yeah, that's sort of the story there.
The good old fairing switcheroo. And by the way, that if you're not watching Space Coast Live, you wouldn't have seen that. You've got to watch Space Coast Live, because our cameras catch everything, almost everything. And then we bring that to you. Also, Space Coast Live and McGregor Live and Starbase Live, if you want to keep up to date on all of the action with all of the rocket news from SpaceX. So, there was a stream. I got to bring D back in. D, are you still on comms with us, right? I want to bring D back in because a lot of people are talking about this rescue mission. A lot of questions are coming in about when is part 2 happening, and you guys were just having fun last night. You guys were just going crazy and having a good time with this patch rescue mission.
So I will say, for those who maybe aren't aware, check over the Shop NSF socials, and there's a bit of an explanation on the whole thing there. I'm not going to get back into it, but for members, we did a bit of a stream yesterday, and there will be more to come. I'm not gonna say anything specific time-wise that other people will have to be beholden to at this point, but stay tuned. Stuff will be shared when it is appropriate, and that is on the member Discord and in the membership program on YouTube.
And if you want to see that, just become a member of NSF, and you get a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. You can join our Discord channel at certain levels and above, and you get chat with us and multi-streams and all kinds of fun stuff they do in the control room. But yeah, yesterday was a fun stream, just because group of friends doing crazy, nerdy, fun stuff, and it was a lot of fun to watch that. But we're watching a rocket launch. 13 minutes to go for the scheduled takeoff. They push a little bit into the window, but that's okay. The vent has ended, and are you I don't know. They're asking me stuff. Alex, what does it mean when the vent has ended? They've stopped chilling the lines down for a second stage, right?
Come again? I also was distracted by the same.
That's okay. It happens. It happens all the time. So when the vent stops, the tower vent, the 20-minute vent has ended, means they've stopped chilling down the lines going to the second stage, right? And they're now filling the second stage.
Exactly. And so when it stops, it means that they are already filling up the liquid oxygen tank on the second stage. I'm starting to see some of that frost on the second stage as well. You can see a little bit of condensation coming off from that second stage. So that's also very nice. That it's also confirmation that they are loading the second stage. Because, it could also have been that they are just stopping the count, right? Like they are just saying, well, we're not, because it could also happen that they go into the chill down, then they stop the chill down, and then they stand down for the day, and they just don't go into liquid oxygen load of the second stage. But no, that is indeed ongoing today, with that frost appearing on the second stage as well. So not only a booster frosty, but also a frosty second stage.
To get those questions in at NASA Spaceflight, a lot of good ones coming in, but a lot of people just saying this, every time they turn around, look at Spacehawk. It seems every time I take a break, there's a new Falcon launch. Good times. Same thing for me, Spacehawk. This is my busy season of the year, so I'm kind of off doing a million things all over the country, and every time I turn around, there's a rocket launch, and I want to be part of it, so I watch my friends do it. Adrian and Alex and Jack and the rest of the crew, and Doss and everybody, watch them do that, and I'm envious that they get to do so many. Luke, I really want to talk about, and we need Chris B in here to talk about football stadiums becoming launch complexes, but they're asking questions about launching in Russia and launching in Europe. There's a huge conversation going on in the chat, so it's a lot of fun on the back end there. Deborah comes back in. Let's see. Oh, they're answering questions for us. 9-8 Central, D 9-8 Central wants to know if you guys are doing another helicopter flyover, you're gonna have the doors open. Do you guys have the doors open when you do the flyovers, or is it just out the window?
Oh, no. These doors aren't open. These doors are fully removed from the helicopter. So there's like the glass dome in the front, and there is no door to your side on either side. How else are you going to get the best views of the ground? You gotta have doors off for that, and that means we're dealing with the wind and the like. And I really enjoy it because I'm up in the front, and I turn to the side with my sort of shoulder rig, shooting out the side of the helicopter. It is a very fun time with the doors off on the helicopter.
So I have flown an helicopter with the doors off, but just for all transparency, I'm actually scared of heights. I was a paratrooper in the military. Yes, I jumped at airplanes, so I've been under canopy many times, but I can't climb a ladder to clean the gutters on the backside of my house because I'm scared of heights. So if I'm strapped in, and I assume you guys are strapped in 6 ways for Sunday when you're doing these, but it is an experience to fly in a helicopter. There's nothing between you and the ground except air. It's good times.
It's basically the equivalent of a normal car seatbelt. Not really too sketchy. There was like one time we had to wait for the helicopter to be able to start properly. It wasn't starting. And then we heard a story about a time when the helicopter actually wouldn't take off. But they're fun. These things are fun.
Yeah, I one of these days I got to get down there with you and just hang out in the field with you guys. Starlink 10-20, we're under 9 minutes, and we talked about the patch earlier, the patch rescue. I actually went out to the store the other day because I was curious because I had ordered that patch as well, and I was looking around some of the new stuff that we've got at shop.nasaspaceflight.com, and it had actually been a while because I've been so busy. It's been a while that I was out there, but if one of the ways that you can support us is to head out to shop.nasaspaceflight.com and pick up some merch, pick up a shirt, pick up my favorite one is the Hawaiian collection. I really love that. Our store team is doing an amazing job. Some of the patches are still available. Look, there's some of our store team, and there's my favorite ones. I need to collect all these. These are like Pokemon cards to me. I need to get every one of them because I just really enjoy Hawaiian shirts. I guess I'm showing my age, right, Alex? Sure, because I'm saying I like Hawaiian shirts so much. Falcon 9 landing zones. But yeah, this is an easy, fun way to support us here at NSF, and everything we do goes into bringing you these live launch coverage from around the world. My grandkids loved the dolphins on this one. I have the blue version of this one, so they're just now getting their words. They're saying dolphin, I want them to say Falcon and Dragon and Starship, but they will. So we appreciate you guys going out there. Shop.nestspaceflight.com. It's an easy way to say thank you. And it's a thing, like, you know how people show support, Alex, and then like they get something back from the shop? That's my favorite transaction, is where I go out to the shop and I buy something and then I get it in the mail and I'm like, not only am I supporting my friends and NSF, but I get a cool piece of merch as well. I like it. There's Lindsay. Where's the picture of me? Come on, Jay.
I think, yeah, I've seen your picture as well somewhere. It's like next to a pool or something.
I was like, hey. Lindsay said, take pictures. I was like, okay, take pictures. You can show the one of Jack in the dunes. It's out there somewhere. All right, Alex, we're 6.5 minutes from launch. What's going on with this rocket right now? It's 6.5 minutes.
Yeah, they should be already into engine chill, doing all of those preparations to light up the engines. You know, it's the same process that I just explained about earlier, like 14 minutes ago during the T-2 event, where they go and chill down the lines and everything. This time is chilling down the pumps on the engines, because they're going to be having lots and lots of liquid oxygen flowing through them, and you don't want to do that pretty much like in a whim, right? Just nothing is there and then suddenly you pump a lot of that cold liquid oxygen into pretty much warm metal, pumps and things like that. And so yeah, that's a bad thing for the engine, for the rocket and all that. So that's where we are right now. They should have already also wrapped up RP1 load, that fuel, that kerosene fuel that they use, rocket grade kerosene that they use on Falcon 9. That should have already wrapped up loading on the first stage. They should be preparing now for the Stromback retract. Should be a T-minus 4.5 minutes when that process begins. That Stromback structure, there's like 2 clamps at the top. They open, then the Stromback itself moves away from the rocket about 1.8 degrees, and that clears a little bit of room for then the liftoff at T0. When the Stromback sort of goes all the way out and leaves, lets the rocket just fly away. But yeah, next up after that should be liquid oxygen load on the first and second stages at T-minus 3 minutes and T-minus 2 minutes. We'll see the return of the Stromback vent as well. Lots and lots of things. Like these are very final minutes, very active time in the countdown. Lots of things that are happening that we don't even see. Like there's a lot of things going on in the background, such as, you know, getting ready that flight termination system on the rocket, getting ready the guidance computers and all that, the software. There's a gazillion things happening in the background.
Like I said, let the rocket fly away. We're going to let D fly away because D's got some camera work to do and tracking this rocket for us. So D will, I guess, catch you on the other side.
All right. See you on the other side of this.
Have fun.
And again, yeah, out there in you hear the rocket exhaust. We hear it through the microphones attached to the cameras. I can't wait to be in the field and hear it in real time. In about 4 minutes, they're gonna launch this thing, and then we'll get that sound and see this thing launch. And you know, we talked earlier about the deployment. You said an interesting thing that kind of caught me. You said the streams are automated now. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, as far as I know, they don't staff them too much for Starlink missions, not for customer missions. But for Starlink missions, there's even this joke running at NSF that I can predict which camera they're gonna be switching to because it's all automated. But they've been challenging me a little bit.
It's quite an
There's
interesting reason, isn't it?
very long story to talk about this, but yeah.
Because you pet dog.
ASP so much less sent in a question about repurposing oil rigs downrange. I don't know if they have oil rigs in the middle of the Atlantic. I just don't know. But instead of sending drone ships out for every launch, would it be smarter for SpaceX to repurpose oil rigs? I don't know that that's in the plans or not, but it would make sense. But how would they get them back to the Space Coast then? That drone ship does the job. They would have to do another lifting thing.
And the oil rig, I mean, I know a lot of the oil rigs. There we go, stage 2. stage 1 liquid oxygen load, I think it was. Sorry, but also like oil rigs. It is true that a bunch of them can be moved around and things like that, but it's clunky. Like it takes a while to move them and things like that, right? The drone, these can go almost like 10 knots with the really powerful tugs that we use. It's rather quickly. It's like a day and a half, maybe 2, to go out there and then come back to port. So they can do like a 3.5, 4-day turnaround with these drone ships. It's a lot easier. It's way easier than just a fixed oil rig somewhere downrange. Also because that downrange may not be in the same direction all the time.
Yeah. Instead of having a fixed location. We're under 2 minutes for this liftoff of Starlink 10-20. And you heard in the background there the SpaceX comms. You'll hear more of them as we get closer. Just like that, stage 2 LOX load complete. And they're going through a final pull, and then the booster goes into what's called startup, right, Alex, at 1 minute?
Yep, that's when the onboard computers can sort of take control of the countdown. Until that moment, the ground computers are all of them taking the command of the countdown, going through all of the steps and everything. There we go. Gas closeouts underway, getting ready for clearing out the stromback and everything. But yeah, so T-minus 1 minute. That also starts a lot of other things, such as tank pressurization for flight. They run a lot of these automated checks and things like that. So there's a lot of things that also happen when they go into startup.
We saw the vent there again after the LOX load. There's that call out. After the propellants are loaded in both the first and second stage, they have to purge all the lines down the strongback, and I think that was the vent that we just saw a minute ago, right?
Yeah. Let's see.
All right,
there
launch
we go.
directors go for launch. That's what we want to hear. They did have to push this back into the window a little bit, but it seems like everything's going, and we are about 20 seconds away from the launch, and we'll see the Rainbirds kick up, and then the ignition of this Falcon 9, and as Alex says, let it fly away. It's a great camera angle with the sun behind it there on the Space Coast. A lot of condensation coming off the rocket in that humid Florida temperature. And there is ignition and liftoff. You can see the strung back retract way back. And here in just a second, we will hear the rumble of those Merlin engines. I've been to many Starship launches, and I know what it sounds like, but I can't wait to hear a Falcon 9 live from the Space Coast. That rumble never gets old, Alex.
It really keeps going for a long while.
It does. Did you see the vapor cone coming off the second stage?
That was really cool.
I love it. And you'll see the expansion of those 9 Merlin engines as it gets up into the thinner part of the atmosphere. That's that spreading of the exhaust.
Yeah.
Great camera work too, guys.
At sea level, the atmosphere sort of constrains those gases from the exhaust as they come out of the engines. But as it goes up, there's less atmosphere to do that. So the gases just spread out. They have more room to fly away. We should be coming up on main engine cutoff, MECO, then stage separation and MVAC ignition on the second stage. And that looked like MECO. And that appears to be MVAC, right? MVAC ignition, yeah.
Yep. Yep. Second engine start, they call it, or MVAC ignition. And if this is your first Falcon 9 launch, say something in chat, because this is always special. Your first launch is always really fun to watch. So we appreciate you being here. And the booster is going to continue on a trajectory toward the drone ship in the Atlantic, and it's going to orient itself using its grid fins, and also it's cold gas, right? Cold gas thrusters, Alex?
Yeah, the booster uses cold gas thrusters. We just had fairing separation from the second stage as well. But yeah, so the first stage will reorient itself, heading into an engine's first attitude for re-entry. Those fairings also have their own attitude control thrusters, those cold gas thrusters. They're also going to be reorienting themselves for entry into the atmosphere with sort of the curved and sort of the belly of the fairing facing the wind stream. And it's like a surfboard, so to speak. It's literally that. That's what they do. They surf through the atmosphere as they come down, then they pop out a parachute, and they are recovered from the ocean. The first stage, though, as you can see, it's using its thrusters to reorient itself. It was looking back. Now it's sort of looking down, and it's still swinging out the other end. It'll end up looking to the other side. Because we're essentially on the entry stage, looking down the booster. Those grid fins have deployed. You see those thrusters firing there as it continues to coast. Currently outside of the at least outside of the thicker parts of the atmosphere, 116 kilometers in altitude. But yeah, should be coming up on entry burn in about 2 minutes from now.
Yeah, it never gets old. It's always fun to see the fairing fall away. And you're right, it flips itself over and it surfs its way through the atmosphere. Parachute, and then every now and then SpaceX will send out that video on X, and you get to see the plasma kind of wrapping around the fairing from the inside out. It's actually really neat. Where we can see this, I never thought this would be something that we could actually just see and almost fly along with every single time. We got a shot earlier of the satellites on the front end of that second stage on the right-hand side of your screen. You can see that Merlin vacuum nozzle continuing to power its way into orbit. And as Alex said, on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see some of the cold gas thrusters puffing to keep the orientation of that second stage aiming toward the drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. First stage. That's it. What did I say? Second stage. First stage.
Second stage.
Sorry, new guy.
Yeah. Now it's looking the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
and you'll see the entry burn. Go ahead, Alex.
I was gonna say before it was looking back to Florida. Now it's swung out the other way. But yeah, entry burn.
And yeah, it's coming up here in just a second, and you'll see it on the left-hand side of your screen. And there's the call out for it, and right about now. And you can see actually in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see the three engines in a line. And watch how they turn the engines on and turn the engines off. They would start with one, then three, then one.
Yep, you're reading my mind because I was going to say exactly the same. Yeah.
Stage one.
And there's the shutdown.
And the video always takes a little bit longer than the telemetry itself, because he has to go through coders and blah blah blah. There's like lots of video things that usually take a lot longer than the telemetry itself.
Do kind of whatever three engines they want. Obviously, they're going to use the center engine and two of the outer engines, but is it always the same engines?
Yeah. Dr. Tirunegi will.
Give those satellites a little push. Slight push.
Yeah, they lost the views from the second stage. Sometimes it happens where, you know.
Huh.
This, It
XN Techno says this is their 100th rocket launch. I stopped counting, but that's awesome. Way to go, SN Techno. Hopefully you watched all 100 of them here on NSF. Thank
Speaking
you. Speaking
of hundreds, I was gonna mention this earlier before the launch, but I didn't want to jinx it. This was the 500th landing attempt on a solid surface, and by that I mean RTLS landings and drone ship landings, like back to a landing zone on the ground or down to a drone ship. 500th landing attempt. So it's not successful. It's only there's been 12 failed landings, so that puts us at 488. Right now, but we're getting very close.
So when you say failed landing, are we talking about a failed recovery? Because
No,
some of them have
failed
landed
landing.
and then fell over.
Yeah, I'm talking about, you know, it didn't land, or like it crashed and things like that. Like for example, B1062 last August, it sort of went to land and then a landing leg broke off.
Jesus.
So when you say failed landing,
And
are
then
we
it
talking
just tipped
about
over. That was the one where
failed
Jack was like,
recovery?
bingo!
Because
No,
some of
right
them
in the
have landed
center.
and then fell
And we're
over.
like, no. Yeah. Yeah, that one. But yeah, this is another 500th.
Yeah, another 500th milestone, landing or not. Let's see.
Yeah.
Gabriel wants to know. Is D driving to Starbase? Yes, we talked about it earlier. Yeah, where people are starting to head that way. Things are happening. Things are happening at Starbase.
Well, at some point,
is it
right
me?
now, I don't know.
Yeah, things are happening. We don't know. You watch Starbase live, and watch Twist tomorrow. This week in Starbase. And so, are they lowering the strong dock already, or is it just me in a weird camera angle?
No, the Starbucks should actually be going up after this.
Huh. So it goes up and then back down?
It goes up and then it goes back down. Yep.
Interesting. I don't know why do you think it does that? That seems this weird step to me. I don't know SpaceX. So. I can't tell you why.
It's part of their procedures. I have no idea, to be honest.
Do you think they have to do some more purging, or that it locks in a system or something, or it's a different mechanism from the lean back to the breakover? I don't know. We'll have to figure that one out. When I get down there, I'll start asking questions. When I get out there in the field with Julia and Dee and Max and whoever's and Sawyer and whoever's out there, but I definitely need to do that. And I'm telling you, Alex, as soon as they start launching starships from Florida, man, I mean, it's gonna be so awesome. It's a shorter drive for me personally. I'm being very selfish now. It's a shorter drive from me to Florida than it is to Texas. So I just can't wait for them to start launching. Here we go with some replay action. Fleet cam on the left-hand side. And there it is, kind of right by that lamppost. You can see it in the distance. Booster 1058 on its way to orbit. What else do we have? Alex, we've got a booster over here on the left. I can't see any laying down.
Yeah, that's B1091. That is the Falcon Heavy Center core that was flown in a Falcon 9 configuration.
We do love our replays. B1062, not the booster, but related in our chat, says, yay, sorry about that. My knee gave out. I don't know what that means, but thank you for the support, B1062. We appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. I don't know what camera that is. Fleet 2? Fleet Cam 2? This is one of my favorite shots from the press site.
That's one of the ones from the press site. Should be either KCO2 or KCO3.
Oh, I can't wait to see this in real time. In live, like with my own calibrated eyes from the press site. Love it. Oh, man, you know, when you ask a question, Alex, and people come, they're going to answer for you. Amiga Clone says, Strongback has two parts, a base and a tower. They need to raise the tower to lock the two together again before it leans back completely. Thank you.
Not really. That happens later into the process. Yeah,
Come on,
yeah.
man, that
I
sounds
know.
like a great answer.
I know what they mean. That happens later into the process. This first time where they raise it, they don't do that. Sorry. I've seen this process too many times that I know that what they mean happens later into the process. It does not happen this early.
I thought it was great. You know what? Alex might be right, but Amiga, I'm with you. This is Gage's track. Great job, Gage. Tracking via robot. And there was the managed cutoff. And the second engine start. Good stuff. What does this one say? Joel says Falcon booster recovery ships should be super lifter. Falcon booster recovery ships should be super lifter. Is that a thing we can say? I just did, right, Alex? John sent in some support. It says, spam a like for Jack and Dan, please. Yeah, I don't know if part 2 is going to happen, John. I don't know. We'll see. We're all on pins and needles. We got a part 2, and if anybody can convince D, then we'll definitely have that. So thank you for that support, John. Mr. Coffee. And I'm trying to read through everybody's questions to make sure that we got most of them. And everybody was in chat. Awesome. And there's that live shot. We're waiting for that. We should see that Strongback start to come up, right? As we come through. Okay, let's see. In Orlando, I hear the sonic boom. Okay, this is from Gabe. In Orlando, I hear the sonic booms of what might be the launch's sonic boom, always 7.5 minutes after launch. From Orlando,
I doubt that's the sonic boom.
That's pretty far away, yeah.
And it's also not in the right direction. For a launch sonic boom, you have to be in the water, essentially downrange. So what you might have heard is just a low rumble of the engines from launch, because the sonic boom, so the rocket is heading northeast, it's going out, right, over the ocean, and so it's heading the other way, right? And so that sonic boom, there is a sonic boom during launch. Like, there's this whole misconception that it only creates a sonic boom when it returns. There also is a sonic boom during launch. The problem is it heads over the water just like the rocket, right? And so there's nobody else to hear it other than, I don't know, people in boats and things like that, right? There is, though, if you live in Southern California, there is a chance, especially close to Vandenberg, that you might hear actually some of the sonic booms from launch. And the reason for that is because of the geography of the coast there out of Vandenberg. And if they launch to a 53-degree inclination, just like this mission today, but out from Vandenberg, it sort of hugged the coast of Baja California. And as they head out from Vandenberg, you might be able to actually hear the sonic boom from the launch in some of the regions nearby, which is why when they stream from there, when they launch from there and everything, their website on the SpaceX website usually has some disclaimer that you might hear sonic booms in X and Y places and all that. But the sonic boom there is for the launch, not for the return of the booster. But it is because of the geography, of course. It's a weird thing.
Yeah. And now definitely that strong back is definitely going up.
Yep.
And by the way, I want to thank everybody for being here for this rocket launch for Starlink 10-20. And you can follow NSF on all of our socials. We are everywhere you are. If I started listing them all, I will forget one. But just wherever you are on social media, be sure to like and share NSF, X, Instagram, Facebook, all the regular ones, Blue Sky. We are everywhere, and we love to interact with you guys on social media. As Dee said earlier, reach out on social media if you have specific camera questions, things like that, rocket questions, whatever. We're here, and we want to talk to you about rockets. I want to thank everybody. Alex, thank you for answering everybody's question. You did great today, as always.
It's a pleasure as usual, and hopefully we get some more launches soon from the Space Coast.
Yeah, apparently this week is going to be pretty packed, but again, like I said, follow us on socials. Also, next Space Flight app, you'll see when all of the rocket launches. So, Alex, thank you for being here. Also, Dee in the field, not going to toss to Dee. They're doing a lot of work out there, still working on the cameras, but Dee Wise in the field with some camera angles for us, getting up early and getting out there. Thank you so much for being here. Jay Keegan in the control room, pressing buttons, flipping switches. I don't know what he does, but they do the magic in the production room. Jay, thank you so much. Also, Gage jumped in with some robo-tracking out of the blue. I didn't see Gage, but they jumped in, did some amazing tracking for us. Awesome work, Gage. Thank you very much. And guys, everybody in chat, thank you for being here for this rocket launch here with NSF. We can't do this without your support, and just showing up is support enough. We really appreciate it. I've been your host today for this NSF. I'm Gene Rowley. For everybody here at NSF, thank you so much for joining us. And remember, guys, dream big and keep your eyes on the stars. Here's some slow-mo action for you.
And here we go.